Each year, hundreds of ladies in Iran, they undergo cosmetic nose surgery known as rhinoplasty. And rhinoplasty is the most popular cosmetic surgery in Iran. The country of Iran is also known as the nose job capital of the world. And yes, more are done in Iran than South Korea and also in the United States. The next beauty standard brings us into Indonesia, and this is considered beautiful teeth filing, or mitata. And pretty much this is a necessity when it comes to spiritual well-being, as well as social well-being and physical appreciation of beauty. Now, it's said that the teeth filing is a ritual done to remove all negative qualities like uncontrollable anger, greed, hatred, and so on. Up next, tattoos. They're regarded as a sacred ritual in the country of New Zealand. And tomoko is a 1,000-year-old tradition where you use chisels and mallets to mark your skin. Now, these tattoos signify a female's beauty, strength, as well as fertility. But when these tattoos are put on males, it symbolizes that the male has become a man and now he's ready to take on responsibilities. Now, people in the country of Mauritania, they like ladies who are really plus size. So young women are commonly force-fed, but beyond just being force-fed, a lot of them go to like extreme ways of gaining weight, like using drugs to really start to stimulate their appetite so they can keep on eating. And the bigger you get, the more attractive you are. Now, have you ever heard of the term yaiba? Well, Japanese men love the yaiba smile on women. Yaiba, which translates literally as double tooth, really is a dental procedure where your upper canine teeth, they're actually capped either permanently or temporarily, and it gives the look of you having fangs. Now, this trend was made popular by the Japanese pop group AKB48. You'll find that in anime as well, the fanged teeth. So beginning as early as the age of 4, Kayan ladies in northern Thailand and Myanmar put brass coils around their necks, and they add more coils over the years to get accustomed to that feeling by the time they become adults. Now, these rings can weigh up to 25 pounds, and at first glance you may be like, ouch, this looks painful stretching your neck like this. However, the rings only make the woman's neck appear longer. A long neck is a sign of beauty, elegance, and wealth. I couldn't imagine my neck going like, ow. And then there are the women of the Maasai tribe in Kenya, and they're known for their practice of wearing heavy jewelry made of stones or other objects to continue stretching out their earlobes. This is very common among women, but men also are known to do this as well. Now, the Maasai women will adorn their ears with jewelry and beads to catch the attention of men, or just to show off to people and be like, yeah, look how big my earlobes are. For real, they brag about this. Now let's look at the Mursi women of Ethiopia. These ladies, they put plates or discs in their bottom lip to stretch them out. This is also found in parts of South America as well, and they start off with smaller plates and they gradually increase the size of the disc or plate to stretch out their lip even more over time. Now, to insert the plate or the disc, 2 lower teeth are removed before a piercing is made to allow a heavy clay or wooden disc to be put inside of their lower lip. And a stretched lip makes you more attractive because it's a sign of maturity. Probably the most painful practice here is foot binding. Now, foot binding is said to have been inspired by the 10th century court dancer named Yao Niyang, who bound her feet into the shape of a new moon. Foot binding, aka the lotus foot, was a trend in China many years ago. And this process starts before your foot is actually even completely developed. And having a small foot in China is seen as making you more attractive. They love those tiny feet. Now, our final beauty trend takes us to Arunachal Pradesh in India. Here we have the women of the Apatani tribe. Now, they used to have wooden plugs put into the sides of their noses as a rite of passage. But you know, instead of actually adding to their beauty, making them more attractive, this process was actually started to make them look uglier. Now, this practice was officially abolished in the year 1970, but this tradition was actually started to stop raiders from kidnapping and taking away the beautiful women of the tribe. There's teeth sharpening. Historically, teeth sharpening was done for spiritual purposes, but in modern times, this form of modification is done just for fun. Now check out these neck rings. The Kayan women from Kaya state
wear these brass coils around their neck to give the impression that their necks are elongated. Now, tongue splitting, that's exactly what you think it is, splitting your tongue in two. This is known as tongue bifurcation or forking. Many people do this to increase the sensation while kissing. It's a common practice to pierce your ears, but extreme ear piercings that can carry huge ornaments and objects. Over time, larger objects are inserted to continually increase the space of the piercing. Just hope nothing gets caught in that and it rips. Ouch. Now, one of the best known genital alterations is male circumcision. Circumcision is the operation of cutting away all or part of the foreskin on the penis. It's a very painful procedure. That's why most males have it when they're a baby, where they can't even remember the pain. Now, sub-incision is a lot more painful. This is where the urethra is open along the inferior surface of the penis for a varying distance between the urinary meatus and the scrotum. This was a common practice at puberty initiations among Australian Aborigines. It's also recorded to be a therapeutic process among Fijians, Tongans, and Amazonian Indians. Tattoos are made by inserting an indelible ink into the dermis layer of the skin in order to change the color of the pigment. And tattoo removal is a lot more painful than actually getting the tattoo. So if you get one, be sure that it is actually something that you want, and also that the artist is good. Now, introducing scarification, cutting the skin or branding it, all to create a raised type of scar on the skin. Now, this adds a third dimension to its appearance, as well as it gives the designs on your skin a lot more depth than a regular tattoo. Here we have the polypropylene breast implants, also known as string implants. This is a form of breast implant using polypropylene developed by Dr. Gerald W. Johnson. Now, due to the number of its medical complications, it's been banned in Europe and the United States. So these implants absorb water very slowly. The polypropylene inside is similar to a yarn. This causes irritation to the implant pocket, which causes the production of serum, which fills the implant pocket on a continual basis. And this causes a continual expansion of the breast size after surgery. Whoa, how do ladies carry those things? It's not just boob and butt implants that are out there, but also there's eye implants, where people can insert jewelry into their eyeballs. There's magnetic implants, where magnets are placed under the skin. Subdermal implants, where objects such as Teflon and silicone are placed under the skin to give a raised design. And now, taking it further, an operation that is illegal everywhere, but some non-medical practitioners still do the procedure. These are transdermal implants. This is where objects are implanted under the skin, but actually stick out of the skin. Waist training is also becoming very popular again. This is a process of gradually reducing the size of the waist using corsets. Now, foot binding was the practice to bind little girls' feet in order to stop them from growing too big. It was a Chinese tradition that was seen to be fashionable and attractive. The ideal foot size was considered to be about 4 inches, and tiny feet were seen as highly erotic by Chinese men. Now, we've seen that earlobes can be expanded to mammoth sizes, but did you know that lips can also be expanded just like that? This type of body modification is exclusively practiced by the Mercy, Chai, and the Terma tribes. This is where a series of plates are worn in order to stretch the lower lip. Now, this practice often began when a girl turned 15 or 16 years of age. Now, when we talk about body modifications, usually we're thinking some form of external decoration, or pulling or stretching or cutting the skin. But in some cases, extreme weight gain and extreme weight loss is considered a body modification. Fattening rituals and excessive feasting serve the purpose of helping people become a lot larger to become more attractive, as well as there's some people that just don't eat and they're literally skin and bone. There's also genital beading. This is a process of inserting small beads made up of various material beneath the skin of the genitals. For most people, this is just decoration, but for others, they claim that it heightens their sexual pleasure. Corneal tattooing is tattooing the cornea. I couldn't even imagine anything touching my eye, like rubbing it hurts. But the cornea isn't the only part of the eye that can get tattooed. As a matter of fact, the whole white part that you see can be tattooed. Some people tattoo just parts of the eyeball, while others choose to change the color completely. And this is permanent. Try removing that if you change your mind. This next practice comes from Canada, but it's widely practiced in Japan, the bagel head modification. This is where saline is injected into the forehead, creating a temporary swelling and distortion that looks like a donut or bagel. It goes away after a while, so you don't have to be too careful with it. Now check out these extreme piercings, not just on your earlobes, but in your face and other parts of the body. Elfing now is a painful yet cute body modification, which is meant to give the human ears the appearance of an elf or a Vulcan. You see, ladies, you could be the real-life Princess Zelda. You just gotta learn how to use magical powers.
Starting off with number 10, we have the Scientology e-meter. So an e-meter is an electrical device of the Church of Scientology, and it's used as an aid by Dianetics and Scientology counselors in some forms of auditing, which is the use of the techniques of Dianetics and Scientology to someone else or to yourself to deal with spiritual matters. And the e-meter sessions are conducted by church employees known as auditors, and the individuals hold a pair of cans connected to the meter while the auditor asks them a series of questions and makes a note of their answers as well as what the e-meter does in response. Now, going back to the year 1971, there was a ruling of the United States District Court that stated this, and I quote, "The e-meter has no proven usefulness in diagnosis, treatment, or prevention of any disease, nor is it medically or scientifically capable of improving any bodily function." But hey, maybe there is something more to it that non-Scientologists just don't know about yet. Either way, it's definitely seen as something that is a weird religious practice. From there we move on to number 9, we have the Mormon temple garments. In some denominations of the Church of Latter-day Saints, the temple garments is a set of sacred undergarments worn by adult followers who have taken part in a ritual ceremony known as the washing and anointing ordinance. According to general accepted Mormon doctrine, and by the way, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the Mormon Church, they are used synonymously. So just don't want to confuse anybody. Okay, so back to what I was saying, right? The general accepted Mormon doctrine is that the marks in the garments are sacred symbols. According to early Mormon leaders, a link was made with the square and compass, which are the symbols, of course, found in Freemasonry, to which Joseph Smith, who was the founder of Mormonism, had been initiated in. This one has caused a lot of controversy. At number 8, we have the niqab. A niqab is a veil which covers the face, and it's worn by Muslim women as part of the hijab. The niqab is viewed differently by various schools of Islamic thought, and some see it as obligatory while others see it as only, well, recommended, and others say no, it's actually forbidden. The majority of scholars believe that the hijab is required, but only a few see the niqab as being required. Although this is not the common perception among the general population. Another religious practice that has been seen as weird and frowned upon is exorcisms. This is a ritual of casting out demons from a person or place. This ritual is mostly associated with the Roman Catholic Church as well as the Eastern Orthodox churches. Now, exorcisms, according to the canon of the church, can only be done by an ordained priest or someone higher than a priest, like a bishop, for example. The Catholic Encyclopedia in 1908 says, "Superstition ought not to be confounded with religion, however much their history may be interwoven, nor magic, however white it may be, with a legitimate religious rite." So based off of this, careful examination is done to determine whether or not an exorcism should be conducted on a person. Number 6 brings us shamanism. Shamanism refers to a wide range of beliefs and practices of communicating with the spirit world. There are many variations in shamanism, and those who practice shamanism claim that they have the ability to diagnose and cure humans, and some claim to be able to even inflict suffering and pain on other humans. Shamans have been associated with the ability to control the weather, as well as divination and interpreting different dreams that they hear from people, as well as they've been associated with doing what's known as astral projection, when you pretty much jump out of your body and are able to fly around, among other things. But yeah, it's definitely one that's seen as weird and frowned upon. Halfway to number 5 is the dowry. Now this is more a cultural practice rather than a religious one, but it's still associated with certain religions. The dowry practice most popularly exists across India, and as consumerism and wealth increases in India, the dowry demands have grown. In rural areas, for example, families often sell their land holdings, and in poor urban areas, sometimes they sell their houses. While it gives a financial boost to a woman and her family when they're starting off their marriage, it at the same time also puts the man and his family at a great disadvantage, especially if it's abused, and it's been happening quite often, the abuse of the dowry system. So you can see why a lot of people look at it as weird and frown on it. Digambaras comes up next. Now this is one of the 2 main branches of Jainism. Senior Digambar monks wear no clothes at all, and they do not consider themselves to be naked. They are wearing the environment, according to them. Digambaras, they believe that this practice represents a refusal to give into the body's demands for comfort and private property. Only extreme Digambaras, though, give up their clothes, those that choose to live in isolation and all of that. They only have 2 possessions, a peacock feather broom and a water gourd. Number 3 brings us the Jewish Kapparot. Kapparot is a traditional Jewish religious ritual that takes place around the time of the high holidays. Now it is performed by holding a live chicken by the shoulders and moving around one's head 3 times. And this is to symbolically transfer one's sins to the chicken. Okay? So the chicken is then slaughtered and donated to the poor to be cooked and eaten. The ritual begins with the reading of the book of Psalms chapter 107 verses 17 to 20, and then the book of Job chapter 33 verses 23 to 24 from the Bible. In response to the mistreatment of chickens that have actually occurred because of this ritual, well, animal rights organizations, they have begun to protest public observances of Kapparot. Baptism of the dead comes in at number 2. This is a religious practice of baptizing a living person on behalf of an individual who has already passed away. The living person is acting as the deceased person's proxy. Now, it's been practiced since 1840 in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the Mormon Church, where it's also called temple baptism because it's performed only in dedicated temples. In the practice, the person who has passed away must be the same gender as the proxy, and it's based on the belief that baptism is required to enter the kingdom of God. Now, the weird religious practice that has been frowned upon by many people at number 1 is no blood transfusions. And this is a fundamental doctrine of the Jehovah's Witness. They teach that the Bible prohibits consumption, storage, and transfusion of blood, including in cases of emergency. Now, although this is accepted by the majority of Jehovah's Witnesses, some actually do not fully back this doctrine, and they opt in for blood transfusions, especially if it's a life or death situation. In the year 1964, Jehovah's Witnesses were prohibited from obtaining transfusions for pets, from using fertilizer containing blood, and were also even encouraged to write to dog food manufacturers just to verify if their products didn't have any blood in them. And then later that year, Jehovah's Witness doctors and nurses, they were instructed to withhold any blood transfusions from fellow Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, when it came to administering transfusions to non-Jehovah's Witness members, well, they stated that such a decision is, quote, left to the Christian doctor's own conscience. So the Rastafari people believe that the Ethiopian king Haile Selassie is the god of all. The aim of the Rastafarian religious movement is to restore the fire in African identity, which suffered because of the forces of colonialism. One of the most famous Rastafarians was Bob Marley, who followed the principles of the Rastafarian lifestyle, including ritual use of marijuana, avoiding alcohol, and wearing one's hair in dreadlocks. Next, we have the Aghori. So the Aghori is a Hindu cult who perform crude cannibalistic rituals in order to achieve the highest level of enlightenment. Followers of this cult carry a kapala, which is a cup made from a skull. They will eat anything from rotten food to animal poop. An Aghori named Kinaram is responsible for these beliefs. They believe he is the reincarnation of Lord Shiva. Then we have Raëlism. So Raëlism was founded by the former race car driver Claude Vorilon, now known as Raël, and that was back in 1974. This church follows the beliefs that Raël was captured by aliens and taken to the planet of Elohim, where he spent time with Jesus, Buddha, Joseph Smith, who was the founder of Mormonism, as well as Confucius. Aliens informed Raël that they created humans in their lab 25,000 years ago and will be revisiting again in Jerusalem in the year 2025. So it's 2018 now, so we're getting pretty close. Let's just see what happens in the year 2025. Okay, so the next religion is the Nation of Yahweh. Founded in Miami, the Nation of Yahweh is a religion that believes blacks are the true Jews and belong in Israel. As for the white Jews who live there, they are considered as white devils and are to be vanquished. Now, this religion practices neither Christianity nor Judaism, instead preaching Yahweh ben Yahweh as the Son of God. Yahweh ben Yahweh was the adopted name of Hulan Mitchell Jr., who founded the Nation of Yahweh. Moving on now to the Universe People. So the Universe People, or the Cosmic People of Light Powers, is a Czech and Slavic new religious movement founded in the 1990s who claim that they communicate with aliens. The religion is centered around Ivo A. Benda and several others. Their belief system is based upon the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations communicating with Benda telepathically. Okay, so we talked about Rastafarianism, but have you ever heard of Pastafarianism? Yeah, it sounds completely made up, but then again, isn't all religion kind of made up? Pastafarians follow the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster for real, yeah. And they don't really take themselves too seriously. In fact, that's the whole point of the religion. The story of the religion is that everything began with the great Flying Spaghetti Monster who worked with pirates to bring good people to Earth. Pastafarians believe that the world has arisen from the Flying Spaghetti Monster, and their official clothes are pirate clothes. So if you're just walking down the street and you see somebody dressed as a pirate, just be like, hey, Pastafarian! And just hopefully they're part of this kinda religious movement. It's kind of like a spoof religion. If they're not, then you'll just completely look like an idiot when you yell that to somebody in the street. So be careful, guys. Okay, so this one, yeah, the Church of Euthanasia. It's technically a political organization, not really a religion. So this group refers to itself and acts like a church in many ways. It was started by Reverend Chris Corda, and they believe that the world is way overpopulated. The Church of Euthanasia encourages members to even take one's own life and avoid procreating at all costs, as well as advocating cannibalism to avoid burying bodies. We're coming close to the end of this episode, and next up we have the Aetherius Society. So in 1954, George King started the Aetherius Society, which hopes to combine alien wisdom with cosmic masters and yoga into something that will bring balance to humanity. They believe Jesus, Buddha, Krishna are aliens. The society is named after Aetherius, who is a cosmic master from Venus. That's said to have been telepathically contacted and channeled by George King. Okay, so now our second last religion is the Bullet Baba's motorbike. This is the only spiritual movement in the world where people worship a vehicle. Villagers in Chotila, India have built a shrine for the motorcycle and its dead owner. The shrine has a Royal Enfield Bullet 350cc motorcycle as its deity, along with a photo with Bullet Baba, who died in an accident at that very spot. Now, our final religion in this episode is Jediism. So there are actually people who have founded a religion or way of life based on the belief of the Force as a very real power in the universe. Jediism also adopts the beliefs from Asian religions like Buddhism and Taoism. Jediism has no central organization, but the Temple of the Jedi Order in Texas has issued a code for believers called the 16 Teachings of the Jedi.
Okay, wait a minute, guys. All right, so normally here on the channel, my name's Dave Wapple, by the the way, for those who are coming to the channel for the first time. Normally here on the channel, Leroy does his own videos and I do my own videos, but when I was editing this video, I was like, wait a minute, Leroy, you're pronouncing Jediism or Jediism as Jedism. It's pronounced Jediism. Now, I actually called him up and he said the reason he did that was because, you know, on some pages they actually pronounce it with one I, or they spell it with one I instead of two, so he got a little confused. And the other reason why I'm in this video is because I also want to just add in some extra information, because first of all, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'm not really into the Jediism, you know, religion, because I think that's a little bit weird. But I just want to add that there was a huge phenomenon when it came to this religion, because in 2001, this is when the religion really became popular. When there was this weird sort of phenomenon, this giant movement where people in English-speaking countries like Canada, New Zealand, Australia, many people within those countries had written that Jedi was the religion for the census that they did in those countries. For example, in the UK, there was approximately 390,000 people who wrote down that Jediism was their official religion, which actually made it the 4th highest religion in the entire country. Because in 2001, in the UK, 70% of people identified as Christian, 16% identified as non-religious, while 7.8% chose not to respond. But the Muslim religion came at 3.1%, and Hinduism came at 2.1%, and Jediism came in at 0.7%. Also, as for the church in Texas, they, by 2015, got tax exemption by the IRS. So, there you go. There's just some extra cool facts about this religion that I just want to share with you.